Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever used one of those AI trip planners and just wondered, how does it actually work? Well, today, we're pulling back the curtain on an app called iPathPilot. We're going to see how a whole team of specialized AIs collaborate to build your perfect vacation from scratch. Right, this is the big question, isn't it? You just type in something simple, like plan me a road trip from San Francisco to LA, maybe stop in Santa Barbara, and then boom, a full itinerary just appears. So what is actually happening behind the scenes to make that possible? Okay, so the very first thing you need to know is that it is not one single giant AI brain that's doing all of the heavy lifting. I think that's what most of us imagine, but the reality, it's way, way cooler than that. See, instead of one all-powerful AI, iPathPilot uses a whole team of them. They're all specialists. In the developer world, this is called a multi-agent system. Seriously, just think of it like a project team at work where every single member has a very specific job to do. And here's the core idea, which is actually pretty simple but incredibly powerful. A multi-agent system takes a huge, complex problem, like planning an entire trip, and just breaks it down into these smaller, much more manageable tasks. Each AI agent tackles its own little piece of the puzzle, and then they all work together to build that final plan. So who exactly are these specialists? Come on, let's meet the AI team that's responsible for putting your perfect journey together. Okay, here's the lineup. You've got the prompt captain, who figures out what you want. Then, the master navigator maps out the main route. The meticulous tour guide turns that map data into directions you can actually read. The route optimizer is always looking for a better way. Then you have the local expert who finds cool stuff to see. The accountant crunches the numbers for you, and finally, the project manager pulls it all together into one neat package. What a crew. Now, here's a key detail. These agents don't just all jump in at once. They actually work in a very specific order, kind of like a digital assembly line. They pass the plan down from one specialist to the next. Let's take a look at how that actually works. So this is the journey your request goes on. It all starts with capture, where your prompt is understood. Then it gets handed off to route, plan, and optimize. After that, the discover agent jumps in to find points of interest, the calculate agent estimates your costs, and then at the very end, the summarize agent assembles the final complete report. It's a super clear step-by-step process. Now, this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it really look like when it's happening? Let's zoom in on just one of these steps and see how an agent takes raw, messy data and turns it into something actually useful. Okay, what you're looking at here, this is a little piece of data that comes from the master navigator. It's in a format called JSON, which is just how computers like to organize information. And as you can see with stuff like encoded polyline, it makes perfect sense to a machine, but for a human, it's basically gibberish. And this is where the magic really happens. The very next agent in line, the meticulous tour guide, takes all that messy code and translates it. It pulls out the important details, like distance and time, and it spits out simple, human-friendly instructions, like merge onto Highway 101N. It literally turns technical chaos into total clarity. So cool. But a great trip is about more than just directions. It's also about the practical stuff, like, how much is this all going to cost? And for that, another specialist agent has to step in. And that is the job of the accountant. It takes all that route data and starts estimating things like fuel costs and even the trip's carbon footprint. And what's really great here is the transparency. It tells you its assumptions, like fuel efficiency and cost, so you know exactly how it's coming up with these numbers. So, we've seen all this incredible work happening in the background. But how does all of that data make its way to your screen and become the interactive map that you actually get to play with? This slide really breaks down the two sides of the app. Over on the left, you have the backend. That's the engine room, the behind-the-scenes stuff where all the AI agents are doing their work. On the right, you've got the front end. That's the part you actually see and touch. The map, the timeline on your screen, they are two totally separate worlds that have to talk to each other. So how do these two worlds talk? Well, the secret ingredient is a technology called server-sent events, or SSE. You can think of it like a live data stream, a bridge that connects the backend to the front end. It's the thing that lets you see the plan being built on your screen in real time as each agent finishes its job. All right, we've gone pretty deep into the tech here, so let's zoom out for a second. What's the big idea? What's the main takeaway from all of this? The most important insight here is that the real power isn't coming from some single genius AI. It's about teamwork. By breaking a massive problem down into smaller chunks and assigning a specialist AI to each one, the whole system becomes way more flexible, much easier to manage, and in the end, a lot more powerful. And that kind of leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about. We've just seen how a team of AIs can totally master something as complex as trip planning. So if they can solve this for us today, what other huge, complex, real-world problems are AI teams like this going to solve for us tomorrow?